Hey, hey! Holy cow! This ball's got a chance. It could be. It is the Shawn Mackey Show. Welcome to episode number 8 of season 3 of the Shawn Mackey Show. This is probably going to be a quick episode because I'm almost at a loss for words. I got a lot to say, but I don't know what to say. And I got to tell you right now, I'm a little bit beside myself. The Chicago Cubs have now dropped 8 in a row. After previously coming off of 2, not 1, but 2 separate 10-game winning streaks. My buddy Robert Soup Campbell and I said on a couple of episodes ago that long winning streaks can turn into long losing streaks. I did not allow myself to get really excited during the Cubs' 2, not 1, but 2 10-game winning streaks because I can see how this team is built. This team is no different than it was from last year and the year before and the year before that and the year before that. You've had maybe 1 or 2 guys you've replaced each year, but the main nucleus has been the same. And right now, that nucleus is absolutely fucking terrible. We finally see Ian Happ removed for the lineup. He's been out 2 games in a row now. Thankfully, today, Dansby Swanson was out of the lineup. Didn't really help. But I'm going to go and tell you right now what I feel is the biggest issue with this team. Okay, and you know what? The biggest issue, that's hard to hit on because there are issues from the owner to the president of baseball operations / GM, right down to the manager. And then the players on the field. All right. Since the Cubs beat the White Sox 10-5 after having beaten the Brewers or the Braves to kind of knock down a little bit of a skid, they've proceeded to lose 8 in a row. And I've seen articles posted about how some players have fallen out of favor of Craig Counsell. One of those players, I think, was Counsell's doing. It was his own making. The others... Now, I was riding high on the Phil Maton deal, this kid local from here where we live. Went to the same high school as my daughter's. Mom was a teacher in this district. Really, and he'd been playing well. Who was going to know that these things were going to come and you know, kind of catch up to him now when he was with the Cubs? Had a good outing today. The 8-5 loss to the Astros on Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. Do want to take a moment of silence right now for Kyle Busch. Not a big NASCAR fan, but have family that is, and I've heard about him and his brother, and a lot of the NASCAR family is grieving right now, so just want to take a moment of silence for them and everybody who's a NASCAR fan. So anyway, the Phil Maton deal, kind of surprised that this is going the way it's going. I said on earlier in the spring on the show, I thought if Maton did well and the Cubs were struggling, he'd be a trade piece. He'd have value, and that's possibly why the Cubs have signed him. I don't get and understand any of these signings. I mean, I've looked at Jed Hoyer's record as a manager since 2020 when he took over president of baseball operations, general manager, whatever you want to call it. He does have a winning record. Not by much, but the last season of David Ross brought him his first winning season. And then first year of Craig Counsell, same record. And then last season, we're in season 3 of Craig Counsell, and I'm starting to believe and think, one, I know why the Brewers didn't want to sign him. Two, I look at what's happening. Part of your losing streak was a 3-game series against the Brewers, and they just dominated. And Pat Murphy has that team on the rise once again. It's almost a mirror just earlier in the season of what happened last year. I think when the Cubs met up with the Brewers, they were 1.5, 2, 3 game, whatever it was. And then the flip flop kind of put it just the opposite. And that happened last year. We spoke about that on last week's show. And I'm really starting to feel that Pat Murphy was the catalyst behind all that. I've said it before. I'm not going to repeat myself. But Craig Counsell, I don't think, knows his ass from a fucking hole in the ground. One of the players in that article that said that had fallen out of Craig Counsell's favor was Ballesteros. And I think Counsell did him the biggest injustice in the world. Ballesteros was hot. He was hitting really well at the beginning of the season. One, that's an attribute to nobody's seen him before. He kind of had a leg up. Now they're starting to figure him out. And there's video so guys can prepare on how to pitch him. But two, Counsell decided, well, he's hitting so well, I'm going to move him up in the lineup. I'm going to take him from 6th or 7th, and I'm going to move him up to 2nd behind Nico. I fucking think Craig Counsell killed the kid's confidence for a while. The last 2 games, Ballesteros is back in like a DH role, and he was 7th in the lineup yesterday, somewhere around there today. But I think that was Craig Counsell's deal all along. Counsell's leaving guys in when they're clearly struggling, and there's a chance for you to kind of keep the game close. There's a time, in my mind, to go to the bullpen. He left Shota in today. Cubs took that lead, and then Shota came in, and Houston went out and took a 4-3 lead, and then he left Shota in, and the next dude up hit a home run. And speaking of home runs, I mean, what is Jameson Tyone trying to do? Is he trying to set the single season giving up home runs record for the Cubs or for any player in Major League Baseball? I mean, right now your pitching sucks and your hitting sucks, and your defense isn't going to fucking help you if your fucking pitching sucks. So one of the bright spots, the defense, is really not in play here because your pitchers are sucking and your hitting is sucking. And I'm starting to feel like this might be a Rob Thompson, Philadelphia Phillies type situation where you need to just fucking suck it up and eat the last 1.5 years of Craig Counsell's contract and get him the fuck out of there. This is going to be controversial for a lot of people. I get that. I understand that. You're going to post in Facebook and this and that and say, give them a chance. It's only his third season and the Cubs are just slumping right now and they'll come back and they'll put it all together. Well, then you can't fucking see trends and you don't look at the stats well enough to know what the fuck's going on here. Jed Hoyer has a terrible track record of signing guys that fucking suck. Dansby Swanson's defense is sucking lately, that his batting average does not warrant keeping him in the lineup. And Craig Counsell said there were going to be changes, and he made a few changes yesterday and then one change today. And I think at this point, it's time to start fucking playing everybody else. And what the hell is Craig Counsell? He finally puts Pete Crow-Armstrong in the leadoff spot, and then you don't even use him properly. With Pete Crow's kind of speed, with his fucking speed, when today in the 7th inning, he led off that 7th inning. That's a perfect opportunity for Pete Crow. It's a gamble. Every baseball move is a gamble by a manager. You're in the 7th inning and you're down a few runs. If Pete Crow can bunt and beat the throw with his speed and get on base, you could get him on, get him over, and get him in. Well, Pete Crow did walk that at bat. But again, it just goes to show, like, what the fuck is Craig Counsell doing? Pete Crow needs to be taught how to take a play out of Juan Pierre's playbook and just fucking mash the ball into the dirt and let it bounce up fucking high in the air and use his speed to get on base. Soup and I have touched on this in a few episodes this season. So I don't think Craig Counsell uses his players properly. When he should make moves in regards to pitching, he doesn't. When he doesn't need to make moves, he makes them, which turn into a fucking debacle all the way around. And I just really don't know from the top to bottom. Ricketts with the fucking money and not wanting to spend money, and Jed Hoyer not wanting to make moves, and Craig Counsell's decision as a fan, as a sports talk show host, it's really driving me absolutely insane. There was an article that came out, or Jed Hoyer was interviewed about what's going on and the kind of moves he's going to make, and he says, and this is a quote from Odyssey.com. It was a video, an interview with Jed Hoyer and on the Score Sports Radio out of Chicago. And it says, it's the nature of how the sport is covered that people feel like you can always go out and get replacements externally. Well, you can. I'm looking at the transaction. Go to the Cubs roster, Google Cubs roster, go to the Major League Baseball home, click on the Cubs roster, click the button that says transactions, and look at the transactions. They're signing guys. They're always signing guys. But it's always like trying to, and I get it. You're trying to bolster that minor league system. But you can go out and sign guys and know guys. Here's the deal, though. They're signing all these low-level guys who haven't proven themselves, so it doesn't cost them a goddamn thing. But when you're talking about Major League Baseball, you're talking about this point in the season when you're sitting on an 8-game losing streak, and you still thankfully have a winning record by 6 games, 5 now, 5 games over 500. But you drop down to 3rd in the division, you could absolutely go out and sign guys externally. You could trade for guys. But the problem is, it says we've had discussions about teams candidly about guys who are struggling with their teams, and there may be a buy low opportunity. We've had some of those discussions, but the reality is to go out and get someone who's pitching well early in the season, it's just not realistic. Okay, you just said guys who are struggling with their teams. So that tells me you have that mentality of, look, this is a decent pitcher. He's struggling right now with his team. Maybe a change of situation, a change of scenery is going to make this guy, and that's a gamble you should be willing to take. But in the same breath, in the same quote I'm reading, you're talking about trying to find guys who are pitching well. Well, of course, any team in Major League Baseball who has a guy who's pitching well, no matter what their record is, they're going to have that mentality of we could turn this game around or this season around if this guy continues to pitch well and we get some production out of this next guy and this guy here. So what is it, Jed? Do you want guys who are struggling with their teams who may want to change the scenery, or do you want guys who are pitching well? Either way, you've said you could go out and get them, but you're not willing to do it because it's going to cost you too much money. Look, you went out and traded for Edwin Cabrera and you gave up Owen Casey. Well, Cabrera's on the DL now with a blister on his, well, it might be that finger, on his throwing hand. So he's placed on the 15-day disabled list. You already decided to say, well, Owen Casey's not going to be a guy for us. You basically said the same thing with Matt Shaw. When you went out and signed 32-year-old Alex Bregman, who's really not lighting anything on fire, and I've not been impressed with him yet this season, you basically said Matt Shaw's expendable. Now he's on the DL or the IL, whatever the hell you want to call it, right now as well. So you can't really do anything with him. But if he's a young prospect and he's been hitting well and he's been taken to this super utility role pretty decently, you know what? You got Bregman. You committed a big shit ton of money to him. You might as well deal Shaw and get you some bullpen help, get you some starting pitching help, because you just lost another starting pitcher, and he goes on further in the interview to basically say that when the trade deadline comes, externally is not the best place to go. The best teams find people from within. Well, you're not one of the best teams anymore. And you've already proven externally with the moves you made the last couple of seasons at the trade deadline that you can't fucking get it right there either. So what is it that you want, man? I don't know. But we as fans, We want to see you do something. And we thought we had that this weekend. You brought up Pedro Ramirez. You brought up Kevin Alcantara. And we thought, great. Well, you know what? Ian Happ's out of the lineup yesterday. You play Conforto. No Alcantara. Pedro, he gets a start today. He gets a hit. I think he's 1 for 3. Great. Good on him. You had the opportunity to take Ian Happ and Dansby Swanson out of the lineup both days. At this point, you need to just start looking at the bench. Conforto, Alcantara, Pedro Ramirez. Everybody who you haven't seen yet needs to get in there and see what they're worth. Let them fucking prove themselves. You're on an 8-game losing streak. If you lose 8 more in a row and these guys are worth a shit, then get rid of them, get them out of your organization all the way around, DFA them, and start fucking fresh, but do something so that we can see you're doing something and that you're going to give the fans what we want, because as the fans, we want to win. We want to go deep into the playoffs. We want a World Series. And holy shit, this is pissing me off. So there's not even really anything for me to speak positively about. We got the Pirates coming up and then a 3-game series with the Cardinals. Soup will be back on for that 3-game series. If we can fit it in, we're going to try to do a show every day after those games. Maybe during those games. I don't really know yet. But I'm telling you what, if this continues with the Cubs, this fucking show might be Chicago Bears all the time. Because even as confused as I am about some of the Ryan Poles moves, at least I'm seeing progress in that sport. Right now, the Cubs are doing absolutely nothing to make me and several hundred fans happy. And I'm not even sure what it's going to take. I know we need some new pitching. I know we need another shakeup to the lineup. These guys have to start hitting. And here's what I see if I'm a general manager. If my manager's trying everything with the guys that we have and nothing's really working, then I got to really start looking at that manager. Maybe they've shut down. Maybe they don't give a shit. And maybe they're just saying, well, screw it. At this point, I'm just going to come to work every day. If I play, I play. If I don't, I don't. I'm going to collect my paycheck, and then maybe I can move on to playing for somebody else who's better at managing than what the Chicago Cubs have right now. I don't know what it's going to take. And we can't even fall back on it's early in the season now. I mean, you're talking 29 and 24. I mean, that's 53 games. Right? I mean, that's just off the top of my head. And there's a reason I used to teach English, but I'm thinking right now, that's 53 games. So you're basically almost a third of the way through the season. 162 games, 54 games. You're right there at a third of the season gone. So you got to right this ship. You got to right this ship fast. And that has to start with Jed Hoyer. Because Craig's doing what he can do with what he has, and it's just not producing. So changes need to be made. And ultimately, that's got to come from your guy making all the decisions. I don't know what else to tell you. But, God damn, this team just has me up and frickin' down and all over the place all the time. Well, I told you this was going to be a short episode, folks. Stay tuned. Check us out next week. Soup Campbell and I will be on discussing the highs and lows of the Cubs-Cardinals series. I hope the hell it's not 3 days of lows for me as a Cubs fan. I'm not going to rub anything in his face, and I hope he doesn't do the same to me. We're just going to talk like men, but I hope I'm happy when I speak to my buddy Robert Soup Campbell on the next episode of The Shawn Mackey Show. Take care, everybody. Peace out. I'll see you when I see you. Hey, if I made you laugh, made you think, or even made you smile, please tell all your friends. If I didn't, just keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for listening to The Shawn Mackey Show.